The NFL draft is right around the corner, and because of that, I've decided to dip my toe in the water of mock draft season. That's right, I am doing my very own 2024 NFL draft mock first round predictions. Now, I want to be upfront with all of you because I value honesty above all else. I am not a draft nerd. I don't sit and scout a lot of these players, but a lot of the picks that I made, I kind of just skimmed through a lot of the sites and saw what the experts, quote unquote, were saying. And I combined that just with my own general knowledge about what I think every team needs. So I am not going to pretend like I spent hours and hours locked away somewhere studying all these draft prospects. No. So don't get that impression. But I do feel like if you just use common sense like I did, I feel like a lot of these picks are something that you could actually see happening. The video begins right after this. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings. The NBA playoffs are near, and I've teamed up with DraftKings, an official partner of the NBA, to help fuel the action. Say hello to their newest way to play fantasy sports, Pick6. Right now, new customers can get up to $200 back in Pick6 credits if your first pick set loses. Getting started is simple. Just download the DraftKings Pick6 app and sign up with code BARRY. You pick at least 2 players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, for example, as if they will score more or less than 30 points or have more or less than 8 assists. You can then lock them in and compete against others for a shot at huge cash prizes. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Pick6 app now and sign up with code BARRY only on DraftKings Pick6. Once again, all you got to do is download the DraftKings Pick6 app right now and sign up with code BARRY only on DraftKings Pick6. Crown is yours. With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC. This is the easiest, no doubt, selection of the entire video. We already know that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. I mean, you look at his career numbers, just sensational in college, threw for over 10,000 yards, 93 touchdowns to just 14 interceptions. He also ran for 27 more touchdowns, and he does it with a sort of an Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes type of flair. He reminds me more of Rodgers than Mahomes in terms of how he just handles himself and how he, on the field I'm talking about. But I do find it funny that some people are, especially in Chicago, are like up in awe about him throwing, having nails, painting his nails, as if they didn't root for Dennis Rodman, and as if Dennis Rodman isn't one of the most revered athletes in Chicago history. So if Caleb Williams is able to go in there and do well, which I fully expect him to, if there is any player that can reverse the curse of the Bears quarterbacks, they haven't had a good quarterback since Hitler was alive, in Sid Luckman in the 40s. But I think Caleb Williams, if Caleb Williams can't do it, then I don't think anybody can. What do the scouts have to say? Well, they say obviously nothing too really surprising here. Top tier arm talent, natural feel for navigating the pocket, keep it play alive. He's a special playmaker. When structure breaks down, that's where the Rodgers and Mahomes comparisons come into play. Why he could fall. He doesn't play on time consistently enough and leans too much on his improvisational talent. Now, that's another thing that when you criticize a guy like Rodgers and Mahomes, you could say their one weakness is that they hold on to the ball too long. They don't, get the ball out when their back foot is planted in rhythm enough. But that's just something you got to live with. So Caleb Williams, first overall. With the second overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Drake May, quarterback from UNC. I swear to God, it feels like every couple years there's a random ass quarterback from UNC that comes out of nowhere and is a super high draft pick like Trubisky. And I know Sam Howell wasn't a high draft pick, but he's another guy who they're really, I think they're going to replace a UNC quarterback with another UNC quarterback. They're going to go from Howell to May. And May has 2 great years on his resume, although his redshirt freshman year, 2022, was better statistically than it was last year. But still, some nice numbers. He's one of those deceptive athletes. He ran for 16 touchdowns over the last couple years. Let's see what the scouts have to say about him. He's big and he has a strong arm and he brings a playmaker's mentality. He has the moldable traits to develop into a top 10 quarterback. So yeah, basically every scout's wet dream. He's tall, he's white, he has a strong arm, and with that, they feel like they can turn it into something special. I haven't really watched any tape on May, so I can't really say either way, but this seems like a textbook, good old-fashioned scout thing. Why he could fall. He plays out of control at times and tries to do too much. Now, that's kind of vague, because I feel like every quarterback does that, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a stupid YouTuber. With the third overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. The reigning Heisman winner, if you look at his career numbers, the one thing that would concern me just right off the bat, looking at his numbers, only one dominant year, and that was in 2023, his 5th year. He transferred third from Arizona State. So he deserved the Heisman, but it was the only real great year of his career. And that's something that I would be cautious of. All those guys who have just one great year in college. Looking at the scouting report, prolific playmaking quarterback, accurate, aggressive, pushing the ball downfield, force multiplier in the run game. So he's good at running, which, isn't really surprising, but I'm not going to say why. Why he could fall. He has a thin frame, opened himself up to devastating hits. He lacks elite arm strength, is already 23 years old. Now, to me, I would be like, well, so this guy, he has durability issues and he doesn't have a strong arm. So why the fuck are we picking him third overall? But hey, that's what the scouts are saying. They say he could probably even go second overall ahead of Drake May. So you got the guy Drake May, who's got the tools and physical tools, and then you got Jaden Daniels, who has speed and doesn't have the big arm. So that's a little dichotomy there. They talk about him, they compare him to like Robert Griffin III, which is kind of, that's an insult and a compliment. RG3 pre-injury was pretty good, but he's also kind of a gimmick quarterback because the offense they ran. I don't know. I don't think very highly of Jaden Daniels after reading this scouting report. Oh, what's that? It's a trade alert, motherfuckers. Arizona has traded the 4th overall pick to the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for a couple first round picks and a pick next season. So Minnesota moves up to 4 in my draft and they select JJ McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. That's right. Top 4 picks in the draft, all quarterbacks. And JJ McCarthy seems to be the one guy who nobody can really put a finger on or for how good they're going to be because his stats, obviously not bad, but kind of game manager-esque. He's definitely being selected off of his, I guess, potential. I don't fucking know. So we look at, again, always go back to the scouting reports. They say he's confident, aggressive passer, attacks the middle of the field, thrives out of structure. He's clutch on high leverage downs. I've watched McCarthy in some big games and I wasn't particularly impressed by him. We look at the negatives. He's thin-framed and inconsistent with his ball placement, was not a high-volume passer at Michigan. So yeah, his weaknesses are that he isn't very big, he is inaccurate, and he didn't throw the ball a lot. And yet he's going to be going, 4th overall or 5th overall. It goes to show you that teams are just so fucking desperate for quarterbacks that there's a team that's going to convince themselves that he could be their next franchise guy. And I guess really I've heard people say he could be like another Brock Purdy, only with better physical traits, stronger arm. If he ends up being that, I would be stunned. I would say that'd be really good for Minnesota. But I just know that over the last couple of weeks, it's like all anybody can talk about is JJ McCarthy and how he's going to be like a top pick. And I just figured, hey, I got to put him in here somewhere. So I did that. I think Minnesota, after losing Kirk Cousins, they're going to do it. They're not going to go. I just don't see them going into the season with Sam Darnold as their starting. Oh, what's that noise? It's another trade alert, motherfucker. The LA Chargers have traded the 5th overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for the 11th overall pick and a bunch of other shit. And with the 5th overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals have selected Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, to be their new Larry Fitzgerald. You look at Marvin Harrison Jr., who, in case you didn't know, is the son of Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr. Wow, I can't fucking believe it. Anyway, look at his numbers. He caught 31 touchdown passes, including 28 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons at Ohio State, which literally just keeps churning out receivers. It's really incredible, actually. Looking at the scouting report for MHJ, he basically checks every box teams looking for at receiver. Well, I mean, case closed then, right? Elite speed, has length, technical skills, a route runner. He has bloodlines. His dad's in the Hall of Fame. So really, I mean, nothing bad to say, right? Well, he tends to play a little too tall and isn't a big threat to break tackles in the open field. He dropped many passes in 2023. So you're sending me a little bit of mixed messages here, people. I'm just saying that you say that he checks off every box and then you say, oh, well, actually, he's a little too tall. He doesn't break tackles and he drops many passes. Pick a lane and stay with it. But anyway, this guy there's no way I see as long as he stays healthy. And I saw him play in college a couple times. So you know that I'm very serious about this. There's no way if he stays healthy, he's not going to be a good player. So I think that whoever team gets him, I think Arizona will get him to help give Kyler Murray some support. I think that he's going to end up being very, very good, which isn't really saying much because he's top 5 pick. But anyway, moving on with the 6th overall pick, the New York Giants select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU. We stay on the wide receiver train, and Neighbors was Heisman winner Jaden Daniels' favorite target during his Heisman season last year. He had over 1,500 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns, averaged nearly 18 yards per catch. Let's see what the scouting report says. Neighbors is a field-tilting speed merchant with big play talent and elite production. Okay, so he's a home run threat. Rare explosive traits that help him separate both before and after the catch. So a little bit of Odell Beckham Jr. pre-injuries like 2014 to 2016. That's pretty damn good. Why he could fall, he's still raw and needs to develop more discipline as a route runner. So his route running sucks. And I don't know what they mean by he's still raw because it seems like he got a decent amount of playing time. He's been starting starter for 2 years. I mean, I don't know. People say, oh, well, he needs more experience. I'm like, well, how the fuck is he supposed to improve on that when the games haven't played yet? So it's kind of like he needs to play more. Okay, well, let him play more then. I mean, I think I want something. If you're going to critique a guy, I hate the, oh, well, he's inexperienced. It's like, well, no shit, he's inexperienced. Okay, give me something about his game. But anyway, so the Giants, it doesn't even matter, the poor guy, because he's going to go to a team with who? Drew Lock and Daniel Jones at quarterback. Yeah, all those great numbers he had at LSU, you can flush them down the toilet. He's not going to repeat those this year, I can guarantee you. Moving on, with the 7th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. This to me was so easy because this is the most Tennessee Titans pick ever. They pick a position that's boring as fuck that nobody cares about, and there just happens to be the best tackle in the draft right there for them at number 7. So this is what they're going to do. It's just how it is. Nobody's going to remember Joe Alt. Okay, nobody's going to fucking remember Joe Alt once he gets drafted by Tennessee. I will fucking guarantee at least like $80,000 that Joe Alt will be selected by Tennessee if he's available at number 7. But anyway, let's look at Joe Alt. Let's see what they have to say about him. It's nice they actually have PFF grades for the offensive lineman that you can kind of base yourself off of. Okay, so in 2022, he finished the season as PFF's top graded tackle, and I know some people hate PFF, but I do think for offensive linemen and defensive linemen, things like that, they are pretty good for the most part. Didn't allow any sacks, just 8 pressures and over 400 snaps. And again, last year was a top graded offensive lineman, allowed just 1 sack and 5 pressures on 368 pass blocking snaps. So the guy's really good. His pros are that he's top tier length, nimble feet, NFL bloodlines. His dad played a long time in the league. Day 1 starter at left tackle. Why he could fall, I love these weaknesses, especially for offensive linemen in general, because they're always really, really serious sounding. He gets caught leaning and falls off blocks. That he's so tall he occasionally loses leverage. So I feel like when you're talking about offensive linemen, you're talking about guys that do several hundred reps, and it's hard to literally be perfect on every single rep. So I feel like a lot of these weaknesses for offensive linemen are nitpicking, because you can always nitpick the worst reps that every offensive lineman has and make them look like shit. So to me, that's kind of generic of a criticism, but still, I mean, by every account, you got to just look at the production, you got to look at the film, and PFF says that he is very good. So I'm going to go with PFF here. With the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Tyion Arnold, defensive back, Alabama. Look at Arnold here. He was a 2-year starter for the Crimson Tide in Nick Saban's last season. He had a decent redshirt freshman season. Then his junior year, this year, 14 games, 5 interceptions. So he really came into his own this past year. The scouting report says, stingy defender, consistently makes plays on the ball, tenacious on-field demeanor, so he's an angry motherfucker. That's really what you want. His weakness is very grabby in coverage and may need to play more disciplined downfield. So you got a guy who's foul prone and flag prone. And I gotta be honest, I might like cornerbacks like this as opposed to the opposite, guys who aren't physical. So they basically say he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and I respect that. So I definitely think he's going to be going very, very early in the draft. With the 9th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Rome Odunze, wide receiver, Washington. This is just pretty simple and self-explanatory. They already traded for Keenan Allen. All right, the Bears did. So they're surrounding Caleb Williams. They're going full in on Caleb Williams, and why not get him a guy to throw the ball to? That's what a quarterback does. We look at what Rome did in his 4 years at Washington, got better every single year, and it culminated with a fantastic senior season when he had over 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns. Scouting report. Hyper-productive pass catcher, great size, dangerous deep, and wins at the catch point. Oh, that's really good. So he basically checks off all the boxes, right? His weaknesses, he has to refine his route running. He lacks explosiveness after the catch, isn't going to be a dynamic weapon there. So he's not going to be a yak monster. He's not going to be a guy that generates a lot of yak. That's a little bit concerning. So basically, if I can just read between the lines here, I would say they're saying he's going to be a little bit more of a supercharged possession receiver, not unlike Keenan Allen, by the way. But who knows? Again, you never really know until you see these guys go out there. With the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle, Washington. So we got 2 Huskies going off the board back. Troy Fautanu going to the New York Jets, who have a 41-year-old wacko at quarterback, and they signed 33-year-old Tyron Smith, who can't stay healthy for shit, protect Aaron Rodgers. And so this makes sense that they would go for an offensive lineman here. You look at his career history here, guy who steadily got more playing time, and he was first team All Pac-12 last year, third team All America, started 15 games left tackle for Washington, allowed 2 sacks, 23 pressures, that's a little bit high, and 3 quarterback hits, and 623 pass blocking blocking snaps, which is a lot according to PFF. So it does seem as though he's prone to allowing pressures. Let's see why. He's tough, physical, versatile skill set, quick feet, movement skills to play left tackle, but the temperament and the strength to play guard. So he's the right amount of psycho that the NFL is looking for an offensive lineman. His weaknesses: he occasionally comes in too hot and falls off blocks. Some teams may see him as only a guard. So basically they're saying that he gets himself so worked up and so angry that sometimes he doesn't focus on actually blocking the guy. He ends up losing his technique, and therefore the defender is able to get by him. Hence, I think the decent amount of pressures that he allowed, but everything else is there. So yeah, I think they need somebody. The Jets need somebody young on the offensive line, especially since Mekhi Becton, they let him go. So they need somebody young, angry on the offensive line. I think that OluFashanu is the guy to do it, the guy to bring that. With the 11th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft that they acquired in a trade from Arizona earlier in the video, the Los Angeles Chargers select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. J.C. Latham, what a great name. Anyway, so you look at the numbers here: 0 sacks, 12 pressures, 1 quarterback hit in his sophomore year in 2022. Came back, began at right tackle last year, second team All-American, allowed 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 14 pressures across 443. So his numbers were a little bit worse in 2023 compared to 2022. Let's see what the scouts have to say about him. Massive frame, ruthless physicality, quick feet and pass protection, road grading run blocker. So basically he's just a massive monster you don't want to get in the way of. Weaknesses: now they say this basically for every offensive lineman. He can be susceptible to lunging and falling off blocks. You've heard that like 2 or 3 times already. He's a right tackle with 0 starts on the blind side. So yeah, basically if you're going to entrust your franchise quarterback to have this guy as his blindside protector, you're going to be taking a really big risk because he's never played left tackle. Let's see, that is a legitimate concern, and it's very specific, so I can understand that. With the 12th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. Just an absolutely classy, unbelievable gesture by Denver to draft a white Bronco in honor of the late O.J. Simpson. This is really just class personified. I'm clapping my hands. Class personified with this selection. And also, Brock Bowers, pretty darn good player too. Looking at his career at Georgia as a tight end, 26 career touchdowns as a receiver, 5 more as a runner. Let's look at the scouting report. Explosive vertical playmaker and a Mack truck after the catch, capable of creating chunk gains every time he touches the ball. So basically Gronk. Why he could fall: he's a bit undersized and could be viewed as a tweener, so not Gronk. He may need to land with a team that has a creative plan to use him in the offense. So basically they said that as a blocker, Bowers, he can be good, but he's a little bit undersized, as they said, so he can be taken advantage of by bigger pass rushers. So, but really, I mean, today's NFL, there aren't a lot of guys, tight ends, who are worth anything that are great inline blockers. Those days have kind of gone. The last great, George Kittle can do it, Gronk, I mean, but it's very, very rare. So, but I think that, yeah, despite his injury he had this past season, I think the Broncos are going to take Brock Bowers. It just feels right. Feels like a Broncos pick. With the 13th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Talisa Fua, offensive tackle, Oregon State. Man, they really make them boys big out there on the West Coast. So let's look at this. He played sparingly for the Beavers during his first 2 years in Oregon State. Started all 13 games at right tackle, 2022. Didn't allow a sack in 365 pass blocking snaps. Allowed 11 pressures, 8 hurries, and 3 quarterback hits. Once again, 2023 didn't allow a single sack. Semifinalist for the Outland Trophy. So the guy's numbers in his last 2 years in college are both very, very similar, both very, very good. Scouting report: smooth, powerful athlete, mirrors on the edge, deploys a strong punch. Shout out to Joe Mixon and Ray Rice. He moves bodies in the run game and could offer the versatility to play on the interior at the next level, so he can be guard or tackle. Weaknesses: occasionally gets beaten to the edge and thrown off balance trying to react. Some teams may view him as a guard only. So basically what they're saying is that he's slow as shit. He's not fast enough to get out when you want to pull him, but if he gets his hands on you, you're done. So the lack of speed, I would say, even reading between the lines, is the biggest weakness, but he's super, super strong. And so if I had to take a guess, I would say that he will be a guard in the NFL. And you can never have too many good offensive linemen. Just remember that. With the 14th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Dallas Turner, defensive end, Alabama. Dallas Turner, great name, great football name. Let's see, look at his 3 years at Alabama. Freshman year, 8.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. Really, really good. Kind of dipped a little bit his sophomore year, 4 sacks, but then came back with a vengeance last year, 14.5 tackles for loss and 10 sacks. He finished his 3-year career with 22.5 sacks, so the stats are there. Again, 3 years of proven production, capable of affecting all 3 downs. A little undersized though, cedes ground at the point of attack. He may need to bulk bulk up at the next level. So they're basically saying that he either has to trade a little bit of speed for strength, and I don't know. But looking at New Orleans, this was a team that was pretty good defensively last year. Their biggest issue was really offensively. The only thing was, though, is that they didn't have that one standout pass rusher. Their leading sack guy was Carl Granderson, 8.5 sacks. Cameron Jordan's older now, so the Marcus Davenport pick a couple years ago, that didn't work out. He's been shipped out for a minute. So they're looking for their next dominant pass rusher to make them even better defensively. I don't see any reason why Dallas Turner won't be at least, the very least, good NFL player. With the 15th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Quinan Mitchell, defensive back, Toledo. Now, this is your typical small school guy with a lot of physical traits that coaches are saying, hey, we can mold him into something. You look at his numbers, and for a small school guy, not very big outside of 2022, where he had 5 interceptions, 2 pick-6s. Other than that, in his 4 years at Toledo, 5 of his 6 interceptions came in just 1 year. So there's a little bit of concern there in terms of production. Now, how much of that was teams avoiding him? We don't know. Let's look at the scouting report. Good size, physical corner, plays the anticipation in coverage, and has proven ball hawking skills. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that based on the stats. His weaknesses: played obviously a lower level competition. Could take him a little time to adjust to a big jump in opponent talent. But the one thing here's my thing is, when they say take him a little time to adjust to a big jump in opponent talent, does that change the way he plays? That's the most important thing, because that's really, you can either play or you can't, and you're taking a risk on this guy, obviously from a small school. If you're looking at him against these small school players, the way he plays, his technique, anticipation, all that shit, does it translate to better competition? So that's really, to me, when they say, oh, can he adjust to a big jump in opponent talent, it's can he play the same way against better players? And that's yet to be determined, but we will find out, I'm sure. With the 16th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Marius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. Now, offensive lineman, again, really wasn't a lot about Mims in the scouting report outside of just what happened last year. Played at right tackle 7 times, started 6 times, had a high ankle sprain, so he missed some time. Didn't allow a sack or quarterback hit in over 400 pass block snaps in his 300 college career. Did allow 6 pressures. So you're talking about a guy, again, didn't allow a sack or quarterback hit. That's, to me, is the big important thing there. So the guy obviously is talent. Scouting report: rare combination of size, length, and movement skills. Flashes elite potential in both pass protection and run blocking. Weaknesses basically says that he just doesn't have enough experience. So this is an all or nothing home run or strikeout type of prospect here. You got guys, teams, their offensive line coaches bring him in, think that they'll be able to mold him into a dominant player, even though he doesn't have necessarily that much film yet. Just a traits pick. So I could see that. Again, you can never have enough offensive linemen, and any team that's going into a season with Geno Smith at quarterback, Geno Smith takes a lot of sacks. So if they can help him out, the offensive line, and this guy, if they hit on this guy, then he would certainly be a big help to extend Geno Smith's career and his research. With the 17th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Cooper Dejon, defensive back, Iowa. Hold on, this guy plays defensive back? But he's white. What's going on here? My God, I haven't seen one of these since Jason Sehorn. This is unbelievable. Congratulations, Cooper. Anyway, looking at his numbers, the starter for 2 years. In those 2 years, had 7 picks, 3 pick-6s. Those came in 2022. Scouting report: explosive athlete, sticky in coverage, tone setter against the run. He hits hard, can line up at multiple positions in the secondary, so he's versatile, unlike my wife. His weaknesses: doesn't always find the ball on deep passes downfield. He's coming off a broken fibula. I've had a broken fibula. It's a non-weight bearing bone, so that shouldn't be a big deal. The big deal here, though, is he doesn't always find the ball on deep passes downfield. That seems pretty important to me, and that's one of the biggest pet peeves I have, is that people don't fucking turn their heads around and they can't locate a ball. So if you're a defensive back and you can't locate a ball, then that's a big fucking deal. So they kind of just threw that in there kind of as an aside, but that's why he's probably not going higher in mock drafts, is because he has trouble locating the ball. But yeah, Jacksonville needs all the help they can get. With the 18th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select OluFashanu, offensive tackle, Penn State. So across his first 2 years in college, had just 1 start at left tackle, which was an Outback Bowl. Second team All-American his junior year. Had a season-ending undisclosed injury, though. We finally got some actual concrete stats on him from 2023. No sacks allowed, 10 pressures allowed, 382 pass blocking snaps. snaps, Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year. So the guy obviously can play. Scouting report, top tier pass protector at left tackle, excellent length, nimble feet, plug and play starter on the offensive line. He tends to lunge in the run game. They say that a lot. He tends to lunge, causing him to fall off blocks. So it seems as though if you compare him to Marius Mims from a couple picks earlier that I had, it seems as though his potential and his ceiling isn't as high, but his floor is a lot higher. So you can kind of plug and play. You know you're going to get some respectable play. And also makes it sound like he's a better run blocker. I'm sorry, that he's a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. But Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer, wasn't a great run blocker. But, in today's NFL where you're talking about everybody's passing now, it kind of becomes less and less important. And we all know that with Joe Burrow there, they need Joe Burrow to stay healthy. He's had 2 season-ending injuries in 4 years. The 19th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams. Holy fuck, the Rams have a first-round pick. That's insane. This, I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is their first-round pick since they took Jared Goff first overall in 2016. Anyways, they take LauLatu, defensive end from UCLA. LauLatu has a extremely interesting background and story. So he started his career at Washington back in 2019, and then he got hurt, and he actually retired from the sport. Didn't play in 2020, didn't play in 2021, transfers to UCLA, and gets cleared to play. Again, I don't know how. The doctors obviously must not really care. And then he ended up having, in 2 years at UCLA, 23 and a half sacks, including 13 sacks last year, along with 2 interceptions. So the guy obviously is a great player, but he has massive neck problems. So you look at this, remarkably slippery pass rusher, consistently beats blocks with savvy hand fighting techniques, one of the most consistently disruptive defenders in the country. So why wasn't he drafted higher? Well, obviously, because teams give him a medical red flag because of his history with neck injury. So basically, it's kind of like, hey, is this guy going to be even on the field, or is he going to have, when the guy's on the field, he's great, but we can't trust him to be on the field week to week because he might have a fucking career-ending neck injury. But hey, if he's cleared to play, then I don't see why a team wouldn't take a chance on him middle to late first round. And I think obviously with the loss of Aaron Donald, I think the Rams can get all the pass rush help they can get. With the 20th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Looking at some of his numbers, played in 10 games in 2022, 5 starts as offensive tackle, allowed 2 sacks in 401 snaps, and no hits on 191 pass blocking plays. Last year, 2023, started 9 games as right tackle, allowed 12 pressures, no sacks, 3 quarterback hits on 355 pass block snaps. So the guy is a good pass blocker. Scouting report, long frame, good power, natural feel for hand fighting. His tools should get him into the starting lineup early in his career. So another traits guy. Again, very similar to a Marius Mims. He's still raw, gets caught leaning and lunging, has little experience on the blind side. So again, another risky pick. Hey, you want to risk on this guy who has all the physical traits, but you want to coach him up. This is where coaching comes in. This is where good coaching matters. But with the Steelers, this is a typical, this really fits in well with the Steelers. They'll fucking, they obviously got rid of, they're going to have Russell Wilson in there and Justin Fields, 2 of the worst ever quarterbacks in terms of holding on to the ball and taking sacks. So they're obviously, to me, it makes sense for them to go all out on the offensive line. So why not? Why not take a risk with this guy? With the 21st pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle out of Texas. Let's look at this. Murphy is a 3.5 year starter, really. His best season was his last season, 2023. 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for a loss. For a defensive tackle, that's pretty good. Let's see what the scouting report says. Explosive interior rusher with good power, non-stop motor, tone setter on the defensive line. Sounds like a guy you want on your team. Undersized and lacks length. Well, I know what it feels like to lack length, if you know what I mean, folks. Anyway, so it sounds like they're just talking about the Dolphins, in this mock draft at least, would be getting a guy that helps against the run. And I don't know exactly how much that would move the needle for them, though, because really I think the problem is the quarterback is somebody that you don't really have faith in. But anyway, Byron Murphy, good player. I think this would be good value for him, 21st overall. Oh, what's that? It's a fucking trade alert, baby! Philadelphia Eagles, my Eagles, have traded the 22nd overall pick to the Buffalo Bills in exchange for the 28th overall pick. And with the 22nd overall pick, the Buffalo Bills select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. This is obviously a response to the Bills getting rid of Stephon Diggs and trading him away. Brian Thomas Jr. was on the LSU team with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. He caught 17 touchdown passes in 2023, although that was really the only great year he had in college. And the weaknesses on his scouting report, let's look at the good. Let's think positive first here. Explosive playmaker with speed to take the lid off the defense. Scores a lot of touchdowns. Yeah, I'd say that's a positive. Anyway, negatives. Unrefined route runner, operated mainly as a vertical threat. he posted just one season of top-end production. I gotta admit, it's giving me a little bit of John Ross vibes. And we all know John Ross, the famous speedster who was drafted ahead of Mahomes by Cincinnati in 2017. Kind of a little bit like that, but they need something. The Bills need something. And obviously, Josh Allen has a big enough arm to throw with anybody, so they don't have to worry about him overthrowing anybody. And Brian Thomas Jr., just make an attempt, Buffalo. Make an attempt. Trade up and make an attempt to get a receiver so you can keep Josh Allen so he doesn't fucking leave, because he might actually leave if you keep trading away all of his best teammates. With the 23rd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals from the Vikings. Remember that earlier in the video when they traded to the 4th overall pick? With the 23rd pick, the Cardinals select Jared Verse, defensive end, Florida State. Verse had 2 years of Florida State, and both of them were pretty solid. Finished with 18 sacks, 29.5 tackles for loss. Let's look at the scouting report. Powerful, twitchy pass rusher, proven production, and a motor that runs hot, meaning he plays hard all the time, which is really what you would expect for a player. But anyway, inconsistent in the run game. 24-year-old rookie. Is he maxed out in his development? Now, usually I don't really give a fuck about age when you're talking about like, oh, this guy's 24, especially now players are playing longer than ever. But I will say I do look at it pretty seriously when it comes to defensive linemen, because that's such a physical position where you're making contact every play. So him being 24 years old as a rookie to me is actually concerning. Inconsistent in the run game as well. Now again, we live in an era where the run game becomes less and less important, or at least there's not as much of a focus on it. But I think that Arizona, obviously, one of the worst teams in the league, they need something, really anything that they can get, any help. And I think at this stage of the draft, late in the first round, Jared Verse is good value. If you can get a good 5 or 6 years out of him, then this is a great pick. With the 24th overall pick, the Dallas Sad Boys select Graham Barton, offensive tackle, Duke. Now let's look at Mr. Barton here. He played left tackle as a sophomore in 2021, started all 12 games, allowed 6 sacks, 20 pressures, so he stunk, was an academic All-ACC selection, so obviously book smart, but obviously wasn't very smart on the field, but he would get better. First team All-ACC in 2022, one of just 2 FBS tackles to log PFF pass and run blocking grades of 85 or higher. Who gives a shit? Missed 3 games in 2023, undisclosed lower body injury, expected to play at center in the Senior Bowl, but missed the event due to injury. So right there, a little bit of a mixture of things. Okay, so 2021 he was terrible, 2022 he was great, and then 2023 was just kind of injury, kind of a lost year. Scouting report. What's the scouting report say on old Graham? Steady, easy moving technician on the offensive line, blocks with a feisty demeanor. Fundamental positioning, brings multi-potential position versatility. So basically he's not good enough to dominate any one spot. That's what they're talking about. Otherwise you wouldn't want to move him from a position if he was so dominant. He lacks the length, play at left tackle, and is likely to be viewed as an interior lineman only. So yeah, he's one of those guys, jack of all trades, master of none. And it really, but let's again, with the Cowboys, it doesn't really matter what the fuck they do, because no matter what happens, they're going to be losing in the wild card round or the divisional round again. With the 25th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Patrick Paul, offensive tackle, Houston. We have a long bio here. Started Houston's last 3 games as a true freshman in 2019. Didn't allow a sack on 81 snaps. Suffered an injury early in 2020. Missed most of the season. Team captain. He must have skipped 2021 as well. Allowed 1 sack and 595 pass blocks. Finished the season second best pass blocking grade among tackles. Boot was outside the top 50 at his position as a run blocker, so he's a pass blocker, not a run blocker. Started all 12 games left tackle, had the best PFF pass blocking grade among all FBS tackles. So basically the guy knows how to pass, which is very, very important nowadays in the current NFL. But it sounds like he's a Tarzan in the pass blocking game, but a little bit of a Jane in the run game. Let's see here. Quick-footed left tackle, incredible length, tons of starting experience, uses his long arms, bench size to stymie pass rushers. Weaknesses: struggles with leverage, gets caught lunging. He lets pass rushers cut back to the inside. Now that is actually a good little tidbit there, something that's you can look and watch for on film. But yeah, obviously when you're the Packers, you got Jordan Love there now. You can always never do wrong by building through the offensive line when you got a young quarterback that you want to protect. You got your quarterback of the future. So I think at this stage, this should be very good value for Patrick Paul, even if you might not be a great run blocker. With the 26th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Chop Robinson, defensive end, Penn State. We talk about traits guys instead of stats guys. Well, Chop Robinson is the textbook definition of a traits guy, a guy who really doesn't have a lot of production. 3 years. Well, he started out at Maryland, then he transferred to Penn State. Doesn't have a lot of production. Finished 3 years of college with just 11.5 sacks. And they point that out right away. For his weaknesses, they say he never posted high-end numbers at Penn State. Could need a few years to develop his pass rush plan. So this is kind of similar to the first overall pick a couple years ago, Trevon Walker, which the jury's still out on that selection, especially since Aiden Hutchinson went 2nd overall. So it looks like that's going to be a miss. But Travon Walker was picked 1st overall based off of his traits and his ceiling and potential. And Chop Robinson seems like a poor man's version of that. His positive, ludicrous burst and bend off the edge brings elite potential. There's that word again, with some development. So again, basically massive hit or miss here. And for the Buccaneers, I think, they gave Baker Mayfield. It looks like Baker Mayfield's going to be their quarterback for the future. They got some stuff. I wouldn't be shocked if they did an offensive lineman here as well to help with the run game, to help improve their run game. But I went with Chop Robinson, really honestly, just because I like his name. But this guy is really an all or nothing selection. With the 27th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals once again select KoolAid McKinney, defensive back, Alabama. That's right, this motherfucker's name is KoolAid, and don't you forget about it. 3-year starter at Alabama. Really, for a defensive back, doesn't have a lot of interceptions. Just 2 interceptions in 3 years at Alabama. Let's see what the scouting report says. Good size, versatility to play both press and off coverage. He's a battle-tested 2-year starter, so he does have experience. Struggles to turn his head and find the ball at times, produced just 2 picks in 3 seasons. Again, see, that would be very concerning to me. If I'm like, as a defensive back, if you can't find the fucking ball, then why the fuck are you playing defensive back? At the very least, even if you have bad hands, you can't catch it. If you struggle to track and locate the ball, and you're letting receivers own you like that, then yeah, that's a big problem. It doesn't matter how good you are in coverage if you can't finish off play. So, but I look at Arizona, they just have so many different holes to fill that I saw them just taking a risk on this. And I'll be honest, I just chose him here because KoolAid is a cool name, so I decided to put him in there. But this is also where most experts have him mocked, right around this area, late 1st round, late 20s as well. But he's got good size and versatility to play. But I guess his size is really the only reason why he's considered to be such a high pick. With the 28th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, my Philadelphia Eagles, using a pick from Buffalo that they just traded for, select Nate Wiggins, defensive back, Clemson. Now, Nate Wiggins is a guy who, in 2 years as a starter at Clemson, 3 interceptions, 2 pick-6s. It's almost the same. He's basically him and KoolAid McKinney, basically a toss-up. So you look at this. His positives: sticky in coverage, plays with ball-hawking instincts, got great size, and should start early in his career. Negatives: doesn't always get his head around at the catch point, inconsistent playing the run with missed tackles, and a lack of effort getting off blocks. So basically, he plays with the mindset of, hey, I get paid cover, I don't get paid to run support. Doesn't always get his head around at catch point. That's a big deal. So honestly, this is not a very, very enlightening or very encouraging scouting report here. Again, it's basically just, hey, he's really big and he's got some good speed. So, let's just make him a 1st round pick. But my Eagles need something defensively. The Eagles, one of the worst fucking defenses in the league last year. We need something. And I guess Nate Wiggins would be, again, an all or nothing pick that we need to hit on. With the 29th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Jon Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. Here's a guy, he started 3 years, finished his career with 18 sacks, including 7.5 his last year in 2023 at Illinois. Let's see what the scouting report says. Relentless and tone-setting interior pass rusher, consistently creates havoc in opposing backfields. Sounds a lot like a Detroit Lions player who likes to bite kneecaps off opponents that Dan Campbell will love. Negatives: he's undersized and may need to play with a little more discipline. Again, kind of vague. He's undersized though, so I don't really know. But okay, you look at the tape and he's really, really good. So I think he would fit right in with the Lions, and also if he pans out, would also help take some pressure off of Aiden Hutchinson. So I think this is a really good, I would think this is a probable pick here if he's still on the board at 29. You hear that noise, folks? It's a motherfucking trade alert. Okay, so the Baltimore Ravens have traded the 30th overall pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. And with 30th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. Now, this dude, obviously his last name, it sounds like penis. Let's just get it out of the way. It sounds like penis. It's funny sounding. I was stunned. First time I looked at this dude's stats, he didn't play more than 7 games in any of his first 4 years. At Indiana, he was constantly injured. Now, I don't know if some of that was just bad luck or whatever, but massive injury, literally the Bob Sanders of quarterbacks. Then he goes 2 years at Washington, stays healthy, puts up monster numbers, leads them to a national championship game appearance last year where he didn't play that well. Not much of a runner. The scouting report: strong arm, aggressive mentality. He's a gunslinger like Brett Favre, who we all know is a class act. Protects the ball, which kind of contradicts what the last thing just said, but anyway, has a knack for avoiding sacks. Now, that's a big deal. Quarterbacks who can avoid sacks and are able to get and move within the pocket. Why he could fall. Benefited and relied heavily on outside the numbers throws with the Huskies. Benefited from a star-studded supporting cast. Injury history could have him off of some team's draft board. But again, you're the Raiders. You don't have your franchise quarterback. You need to make a big splash. I think the Ravens would be willing to trade, and because they wouldn't have to give up in my trade trade, they wouldn't have to give up a first-round pick next year. So obviously the Raiders need a franchise quarterback. Might as well take a shot on Penix, the rise of the Penix. With the 31st pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Kingsley Sumata, offensive tackle from BYU. Let's look at Kingsley's stats here. 2022, 12 starts, 13 games, no sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 11 pressures, 361 pass blocking snaps. Went to left tackle in 2023, allowed 2 sacks, both in one game, 15 pressures, and 6 quarterback hits, across about the same number of pass blocking snaps. So a little bit better at right tackle than he was at left tackle. Scouting report, excellent athlete in length. The tackle position plays with plenty of grit. We love that word, don't we? He could be an early starter on either side of the line. So basically, this guy is going to be a day one starter. Weaknesses, susceptible to inside counter moves and needs to improve at sustaining blocks. So this is a guy who basically just wants to kill defenders every time he's out there, which is understandable. But he thinks that he's so strong that he can just knock guys down with one hit instead of sustaining his block. At least that's what I'm getting. But yeah, either way, I mean, I think if you're the 49ers coming off your second Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs in the last 5 years, your offensive line didn't really grade out that well last year, so you could help get Brock Purdy, another guy here. I think this would be a great fit. And finally, with the 32nd overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, going for a three-peat, select Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona. Let's look at Morgan's bio here. In 2021, he missed the season opener, but was starting left tackle. Allowed 5 sacks, 7 hits, 27 pressures. Not very good. Started 10 games in 2022, but then suffered a torn ACL in his right knee. Improved his pass blocking grade tremendously, so he improved right there. That's a sign of a worker, a guy who's smart. He can make a mistake, but he will learn from it eventually. Returned from a torn ACL to start 12 games for Arizona last year. Allowed just 2 sacks, 1 hit, 14 pressures across nearly 500 pass blocking snaps. All Pac-12 first team. So you got a guy who's improved, that shows work ethic, that shows that he has maybe a higher ceiling than people think. Athletic, quick-footed offensive lineman, big frame, run blocking chops. He can play tackle and may have the versatility to kick inside to guard. And again, this is a team going for a three-peat KC, and we all know KC starts and ends with Patrick Mahomes, and you want to try and protect him as much as you possibly can. With all of the top receivers off the board, unless Kansas City decides to make a big splash and trade up for a receiver, especially after Rashid Rice is in trouble now. I don't know. I'm going to say they're not, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did. Anyway, but you need to be able to protect Mahomes, because even though his sack numbers look great, he's one of those guys that it's really all because of him, not because of his offensive line being good. Anyway, so Morgan's weaknesses: struggles at times in pass protection, too frequently gets beaten on counter moves. He's just a year removed from an ACL. Obviously, in terms of the counter move shit, goes back to him and Kingsley from before. Like, you just got to hope they get better at it. I really don't know what else to say. You just got to hope that they improve and recognize it. But considering the improvement that he made from 2021 to 2022 and beyond, I think you can say this is a guy who can learn and get better. So I think he fits right in with KC. And that does it. That is my 2024 NFL Draft first round mock. And I have all the picks labeled here in order for anybody who was confused or lost track. And that's it. Hey, everybody, I don't expect to be correct on a lot of these. Basically, almost all of them I don't expect to be correct on. But if I am correct on them, I'm certainly going to brag about it, because that's what I do. I'm a hero and I have a lot of integrity.